Captain Maya Reeves stared through the shattered window of the command bunker at the ruins of what had once been New Denver. Plumes of black smoke twisted into the blood-red sunset, and the distant thrum of Khar'Vex dropships pulsed like war drums. 3 months since first contact. 87 days since the orbital bombardments began. The Khar'Vex had taken everything: cities, governments, armies, leaving only scattered pockets of resistance across a burning world. Maya's reflection in the cracked glass revealed a woman barely recognizable to herself, gaunt face, a fresh scar across her left cheek, and eyes that had witnessed the deaths of billions. At 34, she had once been the youngest captain in NATO's Rapid Response Force. Now she commanded the last organized military unit in the Western Hemisphere, 413 soldiers, scientists, and civilians who called this underground facility home. "Captain," came a voice from behind her. "The council is waiting." Maya nodded without turning. Lieutenant Wei Chen, her XO, remained by the door, his silhouette framed by the dim emergency lighting of the corridor. At 28, Wei had been a quantum physics prodigy before the invasion, recruited directly from MIT to work on experimental weapons technology. Now, like everyone else, he was just trying to stay alive. "Any word from the Anchorage bunker?" Maya asked, already knowing the answer. Wei's silence was confirmation enough. "Another outpost gone. Another few hundred humans extinguished." "Let's not keep them waiting, then," Maya said, straightening her tattered uniform and feeling the weight of her sidearm against her hip, a comforting presence against the crushing responsibility that threatened to suffocate her. The council chamber was really just a repurposed mess hall, its metal tables pushed together to form a makeshift conference table. 5 faces looked up as Maya entered: General Harrison, his right arm ending in a stump where a Khar'Vex plasma bolt had caught him; Dr. Elizabeth Cato, head of R&D, Civilian Coordinator Park, Communications Officer Rodriguez, and seated slightly apart from the others, the alien. Vex'ahlia looked almost human from a distance, if humans had iridescent blue skin that shifted colors with their moods, eyes with vertical pupils, and a skeletal structure that seemed to flow rather than move. She had been a junior science officer aboard the first Khar'Vex ship to make contact with Earth, sent to study human behavior before the invasion. When the orders came to exterminate rather than observe, she had made an impossible choice and defected. The northern perimeter sensors detected increased activity. General Harrison began without preamble. "They're preparing for another push." Maya nodded. "How long?" 48 hours at most, Rodriguez said, her fingers dancing across a tablet. "They've brought in at least 3 heavy carriers. Different configuration than we've seen before." "Vex'ahlia?" Maya turned to the alien. The defector's skin rippled with dark blue patterns. Anxiety, Maya had learned to recognize. "The new vessels are siege platforms. They do not merely wish to overwhelm this facility. They intend to excavate it." The room fell silent. Previous attacks had been repelled through a combination of the bunker's mountain location, experimental shield technology, and the fact that the Khar'Vex seemed unwilling to use their orbital weapons at full capacity, something Vex'ahlia attributed to their desire to preserve Earth's biosphere for eventual colonization. "What about the device?" Maya asked, turning to Dr. Cato. Elizabeth Cato had aged a decade in 3 months. The physicist's hands trembled slightly as she pushed her glasses up her nose. "It's operational. Technically. Wei's breakthrough with the quantum entanglement matrix means we can trigger a reaction." "But Maya..." Her voice dropped. "We have no way to control it once initiated. It could just as easily destroy us as them." The device, officially designated Project Lazarus, represented humanity's last, desperate chance. Based on technology reverse-engineered from a damaged Khar'Vex scout ship, it was designed to create a localized disruption in the alien fleet's neural network. In theory, it would sever the psychic bond that linked individual Khar'Vex to their hive consciousness, rendering them disoriented and vulnerable. In practice, it was an untested weapon built from scavenged parts and theoretical physics. "We should evacuate the non-essential personnel through the mountain tunnels," General Harrison suggested. "Give them a fighting chance." "To go where?" Coordinator Park challenged, his voice tight with stress. "The last refugee column was hunted down within 48 hours. At least here they have shelter, food, protection." Maya felt all eyes shift to her. Captain, commander, decision-maker. Every day, the burden grew heavier. We stay together, she said firmly. We fight together. She turned away. You said there was something else, something about the device's calibration? Wei nodded, unfolding a diagram across the table. We've been approaching this all wrong. We've been trying to overpower their network, but that's like trying to shout down a hurricane. What if, instead, we synchronized with it? Vexalia's skin flushed purple surprise. You cannot mean to connect a human mind to the collective? It would be annihilation. Not directly, Wei continued, excitement breaking through his exhaustion. We use the quantum bridge as a buffer, allowing controlled information exchange without full immersion. A way to inject chaos rather than trying to destroy the network outright. Dr. Cato's eyes widened as she studied the diagram. You're talking about a human operator. Someone to guide the disruption, give it focus and direction. A digital ghost in their machine, Wei confirmed. The implications hung heavy in the air. Whoever operated the device would essentially project their consciousness into the alien network, a one-way journey with no guarantee of success or survival. Maya studied the faces around her. They had already lost so much. Asked so much of each other. And now this. I'll do it, she said quietly. Absolutely not, Harrison barked. You're our commanding officer. And that's why it has to be me, Maya replied. I'm asking these people to risk everything. I won't ask them to take a risk I won't take myself. The argument continued, but Maya had made her decision. As the meeting adjourned, she found herself standing alone with Vexalia in the corridor outside. Your willingness to sacrifice yourself is difficult for me to understand, the alien said, her skin rippling with copper hues of confusion. In the collective, individual survival is secondary to the whole, but the concept is abstract, instinctual. You choose this fate knowingly. Maya studied the alien who had betrayed her entire species out of conscience, something the Khar'Vex hierarchy had believed impossible. Why did you warn us, Vexalia? You could have remained silent, followed orders. The alien's pupils dilated. I observed humanity for 3 of your months before the invasion order. I watched your art, your conflicts, your kindness to each other and to lesser creatures. You are beautifully chaotic. The collective sees only disorder to be corrected, resources to be harvested. They cannot comprehend that your individuality is not a weakness but your greatest strength. Maya nodded, touching the alien's shoulder lightly, a gesture that had once made Vexalia recoil but which she now accepted. Then help me prove them wrong. The preparation took 36 hours. The device, a sprawling array of salvaged alien technology and human ingenuity, filled the bunker's former vehicle bay. At its center stood a reinforced pod where Maya would be connected to the quantum interface. As technicians made final adjustments, Wei approached her, his expression grim. The simulations give you about a 26% chance of maintaining cognitive cohesion once inside their network, he said quietly. And we have no way to extract you afterward. You understand that, right? Maya nodded. I volunteered, Wei. I'm not backing out now. I know. He hesitated, then pressed something into her hand, a small metal disc etched with flowing symbols. Vexalia gave me this. It's some kind of Khar'Vex meditation focus. She said it might help you maintain your sense of self. Maya closed her fingers around the cool metal. Thank you. An alarm blared, cutting short their conversation. Rodriguez's voice came over the intercom, perimeter breach. They're coming in through the north access tunnel. The room erupted into controlled chaos. General Harrison barked orders as soldiers rushed to defensive positions. Dr. Cato shouted for her team to accelerate the device's activation sequence. We need more time. Wei yelled. Maya made a swift decision. Harrison, hold them at Junction B Park, get the civilians to the emergency shelters. Wei, Cato, you have 20 minutes to get this thing online. Before anyone could object, Maya drew her sidearm and sprinted toward the north corridor, calling for a squad to follow. They reached Junction B just as the first Khar'Vex breached the barricade, towering figures in biomechanical armor, their movements unnaturally fluid. The battle was brutal and swift. Maya's squad took positions behind overturned equipment, raining gunfire on the advancing aliens. Conventional bullets did little against their regenerative armor, but the squad's experimental pulse rifles, another product of Dr. Cato's team, disrupted the alien tech long enough to make them vulnerable. Maya fired with mechanical precision, each shot finding a joint or sensory organ. A Khar'Vex warrior charged her position, six-fingered hand morphing into a serrated blade. She ducked under its swing, rolled across the floor, and came up firing. The alien collapsed, its armor leaking luminescent fluid, but there were too many. For every Khar'Vex that fell, two more pushed forward. Maya's squad was reduced to half, then a third of its original size. A plasma bolt grazed her arm, searing through flesh and leaving the smell of burned meat in the air. "Fall back to position, Charlie," she ordered, laying down covering fire as her remaining soldiers retreated. Her comms crackled with Wei's voice, "Maya, we're ready. Get back here now." Maya fired her last pulse charge, turned to run, and felt white-hot pain explode across her back as a Khar'Vex energy weapon found its mark. She stumbled, fell face-first onto the cold concrete floor. The world blurred around her, strong hands gripped her shoulders. Through the haze of pain, she recognized Rodriguez's face. "I've got you, Captain. Come on." Somehow, they made it back to the device chamber. Maya's uniform was soaked with blood, her body screaming in protest as technicians helped her into the interface pod. Through a fog of pain, she saw Wei's concerned face. "The neural link, it might not work if you're in shock," he said urgently. Maya gripped his arm. "It'll work. It has to." She pressed Vexalia's meditation focus between her palms. "Just give me a minute." She closed her eyes, focusing on her breathing as Vexalia had taught her. In, out. The pain receded, not gone but compartmentalized. When she opened her eyes again, her vision was clear. "Do it," she ordered. The chamber trembled as another explosion rocked the facility. Harrison's voice came over the comms, "We can't hold them much longer. Southern perimeter is breached." Wei nodded to Dr. Cato, who initiated the sequence. Neural electrodes descended from the pod's ceiling, making contact with Maya's temples. The device hummed to life, its salvaged components glowing with ethereal blue energy. "Remember," Wei said, his voice seeming to come from very far away, "find their command node. Disrupt it. Don't let them overwhelm your sense of self." Maya nodded, her consciousness already beginning to fragment as the quantum interface activated. The last thing she saw was Vexalia standing by the control panel, her skin pulsing with colors Maya had never seen before. A prayer, perhaps, or a farewell, then darkness. Maya found herself in nothing. Not darkness, not light, but absence. Gradually, her consciousness reassembled itself, constructing a mental environment she could comprehend. The void became a vast, endless space filled with pulsing, interconnected strands of light the Khar'Vex neural network made visible. Each strand represented thousands, perhaps millions of individual Khar'Vex minds, all connected, all sharing information and purpose. The beauty of it was breathtaking. This was what humanity had faced, not merely an alien invasion but a perfectly synchronized organism operating with singular purpose. Maya felt herself beginning to dissolve, her individual consciousness drawn toward the harmonious whole of the collective. It would be so easy to let go, to merge with this perfect unity. She clutched Vexalia's meditation focus, now merely a concept in this mental landscape, and remembered who she was. Maya Reeves. Captain. Human. Her pain, her fears, her hopes, the beautiful chaos of individuality that Vexalia had recognized. The network reacted to her presence, countless alien minds suddenly aware of the intruder. Maya felt their confusion, then alarm, then coordinated response as the collective mobilized against her. Streams of light converged, trying to isolate and neutralize her consciousness. Maya didn't fight directly, that would be futile against their overwhelming unity. Instead, she moved through the network like water, absorbing information as she searched for the command node. The Khar'Vex battle strategies, their weaknesses, their plans for Earth all flowed into her mind. They had never encountered anything like her before, a single consciousness that remained stubbornly individual within their network. Their attempts to assimilate her failed, their coordinated attacks missing as she refused to behave according to their predictions. At the heart of the network, Maya found what she sought, a densely woven nexus where the highest Khar'Vex intelligences directed the invasion. The command node. She gathered herself, focusing her will into a singular purpose, and plunged directly into it. The reaction was immediate and catastrophic for both sides. Maya's consciousness exploded into countless fragments, each carrying her essential nature, her humanity. These fragments scattered throughout the network like a virus, introducing unpredictability, individual thought, chaos. The command node fractured, its perfect unity disrupted by the foreign concepts Maya had introduced: doubt, empathy, choice. Throughout the network, individual Khar'Vex minds began to separate from the collective, experiencing individual thought for the first time. In the physical world, the effect was immediate. Khar'Vex warriors stopped mid-attack, their coordinated strategies dissolving into confusion. Some dropped their weapons, overwhelmed by newfound individuality. Others turned on each other, their hierarchy shattered. Maya was everywhere and nowhere, her consciousness dissipated throughout the network. She had succeeded, but at the cost of herself. The last coherent thought she had was of Vex'ahlia, and the others hoping they would survive, that her sacrifice had meaning. Then darkness. Again. Neural activity increasing. I think she's waking up. The voice seemed to come from very far away. Maya tried to open her eyes, but her eyelids felt impossibly heavy. Everything hurt. Captain? Maya? Can you hear me? With tremendous effort, Maya forced her eyes open. The light was blinding at first, then resolved into the concerned face of Dr. Kato. Beyond her, Maya could make out and, surprisingly, Vex'ahlia. What? Her voice was a rasp, her throat dry. How? Wei stepped forward, his face showing equal parts exhaustion and wonder. We don't know exactly. You were gone, clinically dead for almost 4 minutes after the device activated. Then your vitals just restarted. Vex'ahlia moved closer, her skin rippling with colors Maya had never seen before. Your consciousness did not simply attack the network, she said softly. It changed it. The collective still exists, but it is transforming. Individual Khar'Vex are awakening to choice, to self-determination. Maya tried to sit up but found she couldn't. The bunker? Our people? We survived, Wei said, his voice breaking slightly. The Khar'Vex forces just stopped. Some fled. Others surrendered. It's happening globally, their coordination is shattered. General Harrison appeared at the doorway, his face showing something Maya had not seen in months: hope. We're getting communications from other resistance cells worldwide. The Khar'Vex fleet is in disarray. Some ships are leaving orbit entirely. Maya closed her eyes, letting the impossible news wash over her. They had done it. Humanity had survived. It's not over, Vex'ahlia cautioned. My people will adapt, evolve. But they will never be the same. And neither, I think, will yours. Maya felt something cool in her palm, the meditation focus Vex'ahlia had given her. Somehow, impossibly, it had remained clutched in her hand throughout the entire ordeal. No, Maya agreed, her voice stronger now. We won't be the same. But we'll face whatever comes next together. Outside the medical bay window, the blood-red sunset had given way to the clear light of dawn. New Denver still lay in ruins, but across its shattered landscape, human survivors were emerging from hiding places, looking up at a sky suddenly empty of threat. Maya Reeves, captain, leader, bridge between worlds, watched the sunrise with new eyes. Humanity had stood at the edge of extinction and refused to fall. Not through superior firepower or technology, but through the very chaos and individuality the Khar'Vex had dismissed as weakness. The real war, the rebuilding, the coexistence with those Khar'Vex who remained, the forging of a new future was just beginning. But for the first time since the invasion, Maya allowed herself to feel what had been in such short supply: hope. The edge of extinction had become the threshold of possibility. 6 months later, New Denver's reconstruction efforts were well underway. The skeleton of a new city was rising from the ashes of the old, with humans and Khar'Vex working side by side, an unthinkable sight before the device's activation. Maya stood on the observation deck of what had once been the command bunker, now transformed into the headquarters for the Unified Reconstruction Authority. Her injuries had healed, though she still walked with a slight limp, and the neural scans showed unusual activity patterns, after effects of her consciousness being scattered throughout the Khar'Vex network. The Singapore outpost reports successful integration of Khar'Vex agricultural techniques, Wei said, joining her at the window. His role had evolved from lieutenant to chief science officer, overseeing the adaptation of alien technology for peaceful purposes. Crop yields are triple what they were pre-invasion. Maya nodded, watching a mixed team of human and Khar'Vex engineers assembling a new communications array. And the holdouts? Wei's expression tightened. Still entrenched in the Australian outback. About 8,000 humans who refuse any contact with the remaining Khar'Vex. Harrison is negotiating, but they've lost too much to forgive, Maya finished. She understood their resistance. Not everyone could move forward as quickly as those who had witnessed the transformation firsthand. The door slid open behind them, and Vex'ahlia entered. The former alien scientist had become an essential bridge between species, teaching humans about Khar'Vex biology and culture while helping her own kind adapt to individual existence. "The council is assembling," she announced, her skin shifting to the professional blue-green that had become her standard in official settings. "The Khar'Vex ships at the edge of your solar system have responded to our communication." Maya straightened, feeling the familiar weight of leadership settle onto her shoulders. The 6 remaining Khar'Vex capital ships had maintained their distance since the device's activation, neither advancing nor retreating, a looming reminder that Earth's future remained uncertain. "What's their response?" Wei asked, tension evident in his voice. "They wish to send a diplomatic envoy," Vex'ahlia replied. "It is unprecedented. The collective has never negotiated with a species it intended to harvest." "Then we're making history," Maya said, starting toward the council chamber. Again. The corridor leading to the chamber was lined with photographs and artifacts, a makeshift museum of humanity's resistance and survival. Maya had insisted on its creation, a reminder of what they had endured and overcome. She paused briefly before a memorial wall displaying the names of those lost during the invasion, her fingers brushing across the surface. "They would be proud," Wei said quietly beside her, "of what we've built from the ruins." "Some would," Maya acknowledged. "Others would call us traitors for working with any Khar'Vex at all." "Adaptation is not betrayal," Vex'ahlia interjected, her skin briefly flashing the deep crimson of conviction. "It is survival. Something both our species understand." The council chamber had evolved from its humble beginnings as a mess hall. Now it featured a circular table with representatives from each surviving major human settlement, alongside 5 Khar'Vex who had chosen to remain on Earth as liaisons. General Harrison, now coordinating global security, nodded to Maya as she entered. Dr. Kato, whose work on the device had made her the leading expert on Khar'Vex technology, was already presenting data on the approaching envoy. "Their ship configuration is unlike anything we've seen before," she explained, gesturing to holographic projections. "Less weaponry, more communication arrays. It appears they've modified their vessels specifically for this mission." "Or that's what they want us to think," muttered Coordinator Park, whose skepticism had only intensified since the invasion. He represented those humans who accepted the necessity of cooperation but remained vigilant against potential threats. "We've established observation posts throughout the solar system," Harrison reported. "If this is a trap, we'll have advance warning." "And what could we do if it is?" Rodriguez asked bluntly. "We fired our one shot with the device. We can't replicate it, not with the resources we have now." All eyes turned to Maya. Once again, the burden of decision fell to her. Not because she held any official title beyond captain, or rank from a military that no longer existed, but because she had become something more, a symbol of humanity's impossible victory, and the living bridge between human and Khar'Vex consciousness. "We meet them," she said firmly. "But not here. Not on Earth. We established the meeting on Phobos." Wei nodded approvingly. "Mars moon. Close enough to reach with our salvaged shuttles, far enough that Earth remains protected if things go wrong." "I will go," Vex'ahlia volunteered immediately. "They will expect one of their own kind to be present." We've come too far to retreat into fear now, Maya continued. But caution isn't fear. We go ready for peace, prepared for conflict. She turned to Harrison. Select your best people for a security detail. Small team, maximum skill. I'm going too, Wei said, with a tone that brooked no argument. We'll need someone who understands both the technical and psychological aspects of what happened with the device. Maya didn't protest. Wei had earned the right to make his own decisions, and she trusted his judgment more than almost anyone else's. Besides, a small, selfish part of her was relieved not to face this next challenge alone. As the meeting progressed to logistical details, Maya found herself watching the interactions around the table the way humans and Khar'Vex had developed subtle adaptations to communicate more effectively with each other. Humans had adopted more expressive body language to compensate for their lack of color-changing skin. Khar'Vex had learned to modulate their fluid movements to seem less threatening to human sensibilities, small changes, unconscious accommodations. The beginnings of a new way of being for both species. Later, as Maya prepared for the mission in her quarters, Vex'ahlia came to see her privately. The alien seemed unusually hesitant, her skin rippling with muted patterns of uncertainty. There is something I must tell you before we depart, she said, her normally melodic voice strained. Something I have observed but did not wish to report to the others without speaking to you first. Maya set down the tactical plans she'd been reviewing. What is it? Your neural scans, Vex'ahlia began. I have been studying them alongside Dr. Cato's team. The patterns are familiar to me. They resemble the neural architecture of a Khar'Vex navigator, those of my kind who maintain connections across vast distances within the collective. Maya felt a chill run through her. What are you saying? Your consciousness did not simply disrupt the network and return to your body, Vex'ahlia explained. Parts of you remain connected to it. And parts of the network remain within you. That's impossible, Maya whispered, though even as she spoke, she knew it wasn't. She had experienced strange moments since her recovery, flashes of alien memories, intuitive understanding of Khar'Vex technology, dreams in colors humans couldn't see. It is unprecedented, Vex'ahlia corrected. But not impossible. You are the first human to enter the network and return. There was no way to predict the consequences. Maya sank onto her bunk, mind racing. Do the ships at the edge of the system know? Is that why they're coming? I believe so, Vex'ahlia confirmed. You have become something new, Maya Reeves. Neither fully human nor Khar'Vex, but a bridge between worlds. The first of your kind, but perhaps not the last. Maya touched the meditation focus she still carried, now worn smooth from constant handling. Does this make me a danger to my own people? Vex'ahlia's skin shifted to a gentle, compassionate lavender. It makes you uniquely valuable to both our peoples. You understand human individuality and Khar'Vex collectivism from the inside. No one else can claim that perspective. And you think this is why they want to talk? The ships in orbit? I think, Vex'ahlia said carefully, that you frighten them. The collective has conquered 1,000 worlds, absorbed countless species. None has ever changed the network itself from within. You did not merely resist assimilation, you initiated transformation. Maya stood, moving to the small window that overlooked the recovering landscape. In the distance, a new structure was taking shape, a hybrid of human and Khar'Vex architecture that would serve as a joint research facility. Then let's go meet them, she said finally. And show them what transformation really looks like. The journey to Phobos took 11 days aboard the Resilience, a retrofitted Khar'Vex shuttle piloted by a mixed human-alien crew. Maya spent much of the voyage in meditation with Vex'ahlia, learning to control the lingering neural connection to the Khar'Vex network, sometimes suppressing it, sometimes cautiously exploring its boundaries. Wei approached as they entered Mars orbit, finding Maya in the observation deck, watching the red planet grow larger through the view screen. We've received confirmation, he said, handing her a data tablet. The Khar'Vex diplomatic vessel will dock at the Phobos facility in 6 hours. Small crew, as agreed. Maya nodded, studying the schematics of the Phobos base, a pre-invasion research station hurriedly recommissioned for this historic meeting. Are you ready for this? Wei asked, his voice softer now, personal rather than professional. Maya gave him a wry smile. Was I ready to have my consciousness scattered across an alien network? Was Earth ready for invasion? We don't get to choose our moments, Wei. Only how we face them. Philosophical Captain Reeves, Wei teased gently. The neural connection has changed you. Everything has changed me, she corrected. Everything has changed all of us. She hesitated, then added, Vex'ahlia told you about the scans? Wei nodded. She thought I should know before we make contact. In case they're coming for you specifically. And if they are? Then they'll have to go through me first, Wei said simply. The declaration held no bravado, just quiet determination, the same quality that had kept him working tirelessly on the device when hope seemed lost. Maya felt a sudden surge of emotion for this man who had been her right hand through humanity's darkest days. Without thinking, she reached out and took his hand, squeezing it briefly before releasing it. Let's hope it doesn't come to that, she said. We've all seen enough fighting to last several lifetimes. The Phobos facility came into view, a collection of pressurized domes connected by transport tubes, clinging to the irregular surface of Mars' largest moon. As they docked, Maya felt a familiar tension building in her chest, the prelude to conflict, to moments when everything hung in the balance. Harrison and his security team deployed first, securing the facility's perimeter and establishing defensive positions that were visible enough to be a deterrent but not so aggressive as to provoke hostility. Maya, Wei, and Vex'ahlia followed, accompanied by Dr. Kato and a small diplomatic contingent. The Khar'Vex ship arrived precisely on schedule, a sleek vessel with organic curves that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. It docked with an elegance that belied its massive size, connecting to the facility with extendable corridors that sealed against the habitat's airlocks. They're requesting permission to board, Rodriguez reported from her communications station. 6 representatives plus minimal support staff. Maya straightened her uniform, a new design that incorporated elements of both human military tradition and Khar'Vex ceremonial styling. Grant permission. Let's greet our guests. The airlock cycled, and for a moment, Maya was transported back to the first contact, the initial meeting between humanity and the Khar'Vex that had seemed so promising before it descended into extinction-level conflict. Would history repeat itself, or had both species learned enough to forge a different path? The inner door slid open, revealing the Khar'Vex delegation. At their head stood a towering figure whose skin rippled with complex patterns of authority and age, a high coordinator, one of the most senior members of the collective hierarchy. Behind this leader came 5 others, each bearing the distinctive markings of different Khar'Vex specialties: science, warfare, cultivation, navigation, and communion. The high coordinator's vertical pupils widened slightly at the sight of Maya, and a ripple of deep indigo passed across its skin, recognition, tinged with something Maya couldn't quite identify. I am Nexus Vor, the coordinator announced, its voice a harmonious blend of tones that human translation devices rendered into words. I speak for the transformed collective. Transformed? Wei whispered beside Maya. Captain Maya Reeves, Maya introduced herself. Representative of United Earth. These are my colleagues. She gestured to her team, ending with Vex'ahlia. I believe you may remember Science Officer Vex'ahlia. The Khar'Vex delegation's skin collectively shifted to a muted gray, their equivalent of surprise or shock. The communion specialist stepped forward, addressing Vex'ahlia directly in their native language, a liquid series of sounds accompanied by color shifts too subtle for human translation devices to capture. Vex'ahlia responded in kind, her posture stiffening. After a brief exchange, she turned to Maya. They wish to confirm that you are the one who entered the network. The disruption bearer, they call you. Maya met Nexus Vor's gaze steadily. I am. The high coordinator's skin rippled with a pattern Maya had never seen before, not on Vex'ahlia or any of the Khar'Vex who had remained on Earth. Then, to everyone's shock, Nexus Vor performed a gesture Maya recognized from Vex'ahlia's teachings, the profound bow of respect, typically reserved for those who had fundamentally altered the collective's understanding. We have come, Nexus Vor said, to learn. The words hung in the air, defying every expectation Maya and her team had prepared for. Not threats, not demands, not even negotiation, but a request for understanding. Learn what? Harrison asked suspiciously, his hand never straying far from his sidearm. How to be both, the communion specialist answered. Individual and collective. Separate and united. Since the disruption, our network has been changing. Some embrace this change. Others resist. We who have come represent those who wish to understand it. Maya felt a strange resonance within her mind, the part of her still connected to the network responding to the presence of these Khar'Vex. They were telling the truth, she realized with absolute certainty. Her action had split the collective into factions, and these representatives came from those who saw potential in change rather than only threat. Then we have much to discuss, Maya said, gesturing toward the facility's conference chamber. And perhaps, much to learn from each other. As they walked together, human and Khar'Vex, former enemies now uncertain, Elias and Maya caught Wei's eye. His expression mirrored her own mix of hope and caution. They had survived extinction, but the true challenge lay ahead, creating something entirely new from the ruins of conflict. The future remained unwritten, but for the first time, it would be authored by both species together. On the edge of extinction, humanity had not merely survived, it had catalyzed evolution itself.